Yeah, great.
Very good afternoon to all of you.
Good to see you, Roy. Tell the guys, well, first of all, what they should call you, what your role is, and where you're based, please.
Sure. My name is Saurav Roy, but obviously Roy is easier to pronounce, so just call me Roy. I'm based out of Singapore, and to make it easier, professional services might sound like a terminology, but to make it simple, I'm responsible for whatever gets executed through the direct Epicor team in Southeast Asia. So that is my role in a nutshell.
Great. So just a little short flight out from Singapore to join us today. Now we've got a few little things that I know you want to share. So I think in particular you want to start off with a typical story for ERP customers in general about some of the issues that customers face, and then I think we're going to build from that. So over to you.
So for the next 15 minutes, I have 3 rules for all of you. 1, we want to make it interactive, so I would require all of you to engage. And the good part is I have incentives and goodies if you engage well, okay? Secondly, so far you have heard the overview, you have heard a lot of strategies. For the next 15 minutes, I'm just going to step down. And we are going to get a little more relevant to your region based on my experience being in Southeast Asia for the last 5 years. Third, and very important, I need all of you to applaud even when you don't like my speech, okay? Right, so let's get going. That's exactly what I was. Oh, super. Now, let's talk about coaching. A raise of hands, how many of you have partners? Girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands, wives? In order to hide, you can raise 2 hands if you have both. Right? In terms of courtship, as any rule of life, it also applies to ERP as well. And a lot of these would be applicable to all of you as well. Don't have to tell me which one is actually applicable. But what you see here is that time of courtship, when you're trying to get a new system in place and you're shortlisting systems, there's obviously a deviation between what you would have expected and what you would have actually got. So I need you to wear your memory hats and go back when you first chose Epicor or any other ERP system. So these would be relevant things for you as well. I'm not going to ask who among you come under the 75% who were not sure of the choice they finally made on the Epicor and your partners. We keep that a secret. The second part of it, of course, is after your courtship, you would have then got into the marriage. You would have got the ERP system. You would have started deploying it over the last few years. And here too, I want to ask somebody who's been in that journey. So let's start with Mr. Kimmy Liv for one, Jim.
Don't be shy, I had to do martial arts.
Right.
Get on with it.
So, Kimmy, I assume you are happily married. Some people say that's an oxymoron. But I assume you're a happily married gentleman. Right? Yeah. Fantastic. So, before marriage and after marriage, what were the changes that you saw in terms of the relationship that you had?
Of course, to me, it's the same because we compromise each other.
Right.
Okay. Of course, you cannot be forever.
So the first word you talked about is compromise. So when you would have seen the system, you would have said, fine, these things work for me, these things I can adjust as a user. Next, what was the other experience that you had? You can share, your wife's not here, and I'm sure they are not your wife here. Please, don't be shy.
No, this is human
Commitment, wonderful. So you would have seen your projects have succeeded because of the commitment from the top, from your sponsors, and also from the team, right? And not everything was ideal. I think we are not here to give you an impression that everything would have been ideal in an ERP journey as well. But at the end of the day, you have made it work. And what I would like you to do is give yourself a round of applause for being the 25% who have made the ERP successful. If you're part of this 25%, and we are very happy and obliged that all of you are here today.
So Roy, the great news is that the guys in this room are part of that privileged 25%, and I know your teams are an integral part of that, where we're doing a direct implementation. Our partners are the other key component if we have a partner implementation to get us to that happy 25%. So you know, everything is fine, right? There's no challenges, everything is perfect, or are you going to tell us slightly something different?
Things are good, but it can always be better. And there are three things in terms of the diagnosis that I want to talk to you about. Three very specific things that I've noticed over the last 5 years being in this region and talking to various customers of what is the next step. You are the 25%, you have a happy marriage, you have a child, but you don't really go into the sunset, right? There are things that you still want. And there are a lot of things we can talk about, but today I want to focus on three things. The first, the business owner, the sponsor of your project. And I want you to think back how many times your CXO has come to you and said, where are my reports? Where are those dashboards? I saw those lovely fancy pie charts when Frank was presenting. Where are they? Right? You are happy with the system, but you still feel that the leadership is not getting that intelligent reporting that they want. The second, managing the system. We are looking for a superhero. We are looking for someone like Greg here who can box and punch and do everything, right? But the reality is, we are overstressing a few people in the organization because you're expecting them to support the entire organization in terms of the changes, the modifications, the issues. And let's face it, we are all industry folks, right? If you get a strong technical person, this is not where he wants to be from a career perspective. And on top of that, all the pressure. So how do we handle this problem is what we're going to talk about later. But third and final, I am stuck with a slow system. So this is of course me trying to fix something here. But the challenge of course is that there are problems that you face, right? And it's not necessarily an epic code problem per se or an ERP problem per se. It could be an overall infrastructure, it could be the growth in your organization, it could be the growth of data, right? So there could be various things, but we have to still acknowledge this is something that we need to fix and we need to focus on as a team. And the other part of the third problem is the stuck part. One is the slow part and the other is the stuck part. You feel that you're stuck in a certain version. You love all those lovely features, the technology, but you feel inherently that you're stuck in that old system for various reasons. And later on, we will talk through the solutions that we look at. But these are the three problems that I feel are very relevant for us to take the next step forward together.
So Roy, I'm guessing then in the context of ease of everything and all the work that the global professional services team is doing, you're going to then maybe give us some real examples of how you think we can address those areas that you've highlighted. Is that correct?
Sure. So I would very nicely like to take credit for the answers I'm giving, but it's actually from the entire team. So it's the entire leadership team that have thought through these ideas and feel these are specific things that we could actually do in the region. So let's go back to those three problems that we were talking about. If I can make the mouse to move, that is. Can somebody help me move this? It's stuck. Stuck. Right. So this was the first problem that we talked about, right? Now let's do a root cause of what the problem is. You have a good system, you're able to close your periods from time to time, your key users, your end user, they're able to get what they need from the system. But I think what we do is, we are still focused on that data layer aspect of it. We are not getting necessarily into that intelligent reporting thought process yet. And You would have heard about a lot of the intelligent reporting that we are putting on there, and specifically what I would like you to think of is start reviewing the BI, the intelligent reporting requirements that you have. Now let me ask you another question, the second question, so which means the second prize is available for this question. When you look at intelligent reporting, do you look at it from a top-down perspective or from a bottom-up perspective? Kevin, I'm not going to ask you because you know the answer. So let me ask you, sir. When you're looking at intelligent reporting, are you looking at it from a top-down perspective or a bottom-up perspective? Good answer, and you win a nice prize. There you are. Top-down, right? I think we have done the good bottom-up work. We have looked at your end-user requirements, but it's high time, if you haven't, to start looking at your sponsor's requirements now, because he's feeling neglected. Okay? And this is where, of course, we can also help you. Because at the end of the day, as you heard the gentleman say, it's also about the approach. How do you approach an intelligent reporting question? That's very important as well. And that is where professional services can be involved to help you get into that process and make that approach. Let's come to the second one. The overwhelmed individual managing your system. What's the root cause? A small IT team overburdened with a lot of changes, right? Everybody wants this report, that change, that modification, and this team is overwhelmed with that. What is the solution? First of all, something that I tell all my customers, get your change management process right. You don't have the luxury of a 100-member IT team to take any changes that your users are asking you for. Make sure that you're smart in the way you adopt and put in these changes into your system. A lot of organizations unfortunately lose control over their changes because they don't have a structured change management process. I have mentioned the concept of train. What is the concept of train? I won't get into so much of detail, but what it means principally is think how a train moves. It starts from a platform at a certain point of time, and at a certain point of time, it moves to another platform and another till it comes to its destination. So, for example, in your organization, if you run 4 trains in a year, and each train has 4 stops, the first stop, on a certain date, all the changes have come in. The second stop, the prioritized changes will be approved. The third stop, those changes will be tested. And the fourth, you have reached your destination. A much smarter way to manage your changes within your organization rather than ad hoc ways, because that is really going to stress out a small and optimal team that you would typically have. So this is something that I would request all of you to look at. And again, for professional services, we have done this before. We have people who have worked on the ITIL sort of processes where they can bring in these best practices for you. The second is there's an option of annual configuration maintenance contract as well. You have your product support issues, which of course you have your product team, the support team, and Rian would manage that for you. But I think the biggest challenge comes in that middle layer of all those BPMs, your dashboards. How do we manage that part of it? Some of it can be done by an in-house team, but it gets so overwhelming. Now, it's easy to say, fine, why don't you ask the partner of professional services to come in and help you on an ad hoc basis? You can do that, but 2 challenges. One, the availability of the resource. Second, it's expensive. Well, every time you have to pay for a change. Rather than that, if you come to a more optimal arrangement of a configuration maintenance contract and set certain expectations either with your partner or professional services, it makes it a lot easier for you to manage and a lot smarter in the way you manage your changes as well. Of course, we also have the managed services team who can also help you. So if you want to talk a little more on this, we can talk after this. But again, a thought process here is you need to get more organized in terms of the way you manage your system. system. And possibly a lot of you are already doing it. But those of you who are not, I think it's time to get moving on this aspect of it. Now let's come to the third one. The die knitting, right? So we have had issues of interlink performances within infrastructure, network, bandwidth. The fact of the matter is, this is something that we need to work over. And what we want to do as an approach is to offer something called an environmental health check. And what it does for you is it would reduce your bottlenecks. You would have somebody coming in and doing an audit and a review of your environment. And in a lot of cases, these people can give you very quick fixes as well. It's okay, if you tune it in this way, or if you do a certain transaction in this time of the day, there are things that you can improve. So I'm not talking about 50 days of work, I'm talking about 2 to 3 days, that's it. Right? So these are experts who specialize in optimizing your performance. That is all they do. And it's always worth it to invest those 2 to 3 days, because the jump that you will get post that is enormous. Okay? So this is something that you could also look at in terms of using this type of a service. We talk about the stuck person. I hope it doesn't look like me, but somebody who's actually stuck for a long time. And I know a lot of you have heard about E10 upgrade. In fact, you will hear a lot more later on as well. But you feel that it's good, but not for me. I used to watch these slim, handsome people, and I used to think that's not for me. But I lost 30 kilos over the last 10 months, and I've done it. Right? So a round of applause for me for that, please. So if you put your mind to it, it can be done. And this is where the gym instructor who helped me, we are your gym instructor. We will guide you and we will advise you what you need to do. So there are two things that we can offer you here. One is what is called the SOAR, which is System Optimization and Adoption Review. Tongue twister, but what it effectively means is we get someone like a Brian, right? You have met Brian before. Someone like a Brian coming in and seeing how much of the features you're using. A lot of you aren't even possibly using 50 to 60% of the features. So how do you use those features? So this is somebody and special services that can help you increase the adoption of your system itself. The second thing, Cirrus program, and this is something that Terry will talk about in a lot of detail later. This is something that Epicor is offering, knowing that this is a sort of a situation which a lot of customers are in. They are under the impression that they're stuck, it's a big investment, and they don't know how to go about it. And this is where the Cirrus upgrade program actually focuses. So please pay attention to her when she talks about that, because that's another solution that you can look at. Over to you.
Great, Roy. So I think if we go back to those ease of everything comments earlier on, you covered things like easy to deploy, easy to upgrade, easy to install, easy to operate. So there's a whole bunch of things there. It starts to get into managed services. Cloud is another obvious one, right? Thinking about some of those activities that are done by the internal IT team that can actually be delivered through the cloud team as another alternative. So there's lots of options there. So we've scratched the surface here, but hopefully it's given you a bit of an idea of where we're focusing on professional services. Look, so any final comments to the guys as kind of wrap up on your session?
Sure, I just want to wrap up what we just discussed. Now, what do you need to do next after listening to this? Of course, the first thing you should do is have a nice lunch. But once you have done that, try to introspect and see if those three apply to you. It could be one applies, it could be two, it could be all three. So see which of those apply to you. And then look at the possible solution that I have offered you here. And please feel free to reach out to anybody in Epicor. You can also talk to me, you can talk to Brian, you can talk to professional services, other representatives as well, but we are there to help you through the journey at the end of the day. We take pride in saying that we are not an SAP and an Oracle because we believe that our business goes through referenceability. And this is our point of reference here. If you are not satisfied, we are not going to be able to do any more business here. That's a simple fact. So we need you to be satisfied, we need you to be happy, We need you all at the end to have a happy married life. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.